After midnight, our government lost its legal authority to collect vast quantities of phone records in its quest to find terrorists. But the Senate could act to restore the NSA's controversial surveillance program as soon as tomorrow. Lawmakers failed to strike a deal in a rare Sunday night session after Kentucky Senator Rand Paul intentionally held up his chamber's progress.
We are not collecting the information of spies. We are not collecting the information of terrorists. We are collecting all American citizens' records all of the time. This is what we fought the revolution over. Are we going to so blithely give up our freedom? Are we going to so blithely go along and just say, take it? Well, I'm not going to take it anymore. I don't think the American people are going to take it anymore.
Supporters of the bill, including former and current intelligence officials, say the Patriot Act must be reauthorized to keep Americans safe.
Why would a reasonable people take off the table tools that I believe are lawful and around which there is already a political consensus? Why would we give up things that the professionals say keep us safer?
The tools that the government has used over the last dozen years to keep this country safe are integral to making sure that we're able to stop terrorists in their tracks.
Okay, so in a little bit of an Ace Hardware moment, you have intelligence officials, Eric, saying, keep out of our tool bag. We need these forensic data collection points to be able to track the bad guys down.
Yes, you do. And you have some of us who are saying you can still do that. You haven't lost any ability to do that. You can still get the phone records of anyone. The government can still get the phone records of anyone, even right now, after the NSA's data mining mandate expired. They just don't have the right to get the phone records of everyone all at once. They're going to need to go by the Constitution that's been good for 247,000 years right here in America. If you don't like the law, change the law. But you better do it via amending the Constitution. It is very, very clear in the Constitution that you need A, probable cause, and B, you need a name of the person that you're going to issue the warrant to if you want to go ahead and get the information. Other than that, look, the straw man argument is if you're against this, you must be okay with terrorists. And no, we're not. I'm not. I think you go after them. You go after them hard. You go after them via any means that are legal and constitutional, which would also mean if you think and you have probable cause that a mosque is talking about terror, listen in. Go ahead. Find out who they're talking to. Use the data. Use the phone lines that they're calling. Follow those people, too. But those are warrantable. You can go to the FISA court and get those things. What all that happened last night was that the United States process said, in order to continue to data mine every single American without a warrant, you're going to have to come back and show them how to do that. And that's what they're trying to do through the House right now.
Mm-hmm. All right, Andrea.
I think that Rand Paul makes a very compelling case. I think he's probably the loudest and clearest voice on this. And his concerns are warranted. I mean, besides the constitutional violations, which Eric articulated, it's also questionable that it could be effective with such a wide net. Mm-hmm. And also, I think the potential for abuse is enormous. And for people to say, well, there's no evidence that they abused it. Sure, that's true. But we're living in an era where we saw the IRS target Americans for their political ideologies. And we know that in past, FBI directors like Edward Hoover, they've used information on people to go after them. So I think the prospect, Kimberly, for political abuse is pretty great. Although I think the best voice on the other side of the argument is Michael Mukasey. Mm-hmm. And he paints a very compelling argument on why this has been working. I mean, he cites one example, Kimberly, I think it's the Zazi incidents where they used that information to stop a subway plot, which is, that's pretty good. If it spares one American, it could be worth it. But I think this is a really fascinating debate, and I'm happy that it's finally being had. I think instead of in a political manner, Rand Paul took it in a little bit of a political manner by saying that people wanted a terrorist attack, which I didn't like. But otherwise, it's pretty much been on substance, and I think it's about time. Mm-hmm. All
right, Tom, how do you see it?
I don't know if am I alone in this? I feel like so many people know my information. I don't mind about this data mining stuff because to me, it's not individuals. They're just looking at patterns. It's not person of interest. They're not chasing people down in the street and finding out who I'm calling. It's looking for patterns, right? And if that helps them stop an attack, I don't know if it does. But I suspect that if it does help them, it's like, when are you going to take your freedom, now or later? Because if there's another attack,
why do
we're
you
all
have to
going to be
give up
giving
your
up
freedom,
more
Tom?
freedoms.
Why do you need to give up your freedom? First,
I know we're going to give them up after an attack. Is what I'm saying.
You're sure that they're not going to use this information in any way, shape, or form that you don't like? IRS, Andrea points out the IRS scandal. We spent months on this show saying, look, if they're willing to do that, what are they not willing to do? If they're willing to target conservatives
but that's also
from the
administration
IRS level,
specific.
hold on, let me just finish. What? No, what's the difference?
Well,
this is even bigger.
The IRS
this is even
under
what?
the direction of President Obama.
You trust President Obama, Valerie Jarrett, Eric Holder, knock yourself out. But what about Hillary Clinton? We have a lot of questions about her transparency, her ethics. What if she's president and she says, you know what,
Guys,
I want to lean a little bit into this, these conservative groups over here. Hey, NSA, do me a favor. I want to hear that. Is that conspiratorial? Maybe, but it's not. Look, no one thought the IRS was going to ever do what they did.
I'm sorry, why do you guys
I
think
know, but you don't like sacrifice the safety of the United States because you're a little bit
Is that
scared of
the
Hillary
straw
Clinton.
man
But that's what
argument
it said.
again, KG?
I'm
Who
replying
wants to
to what you
sacrifice
just
the
said
safety
that
of the
sounded ridiculous. You're
listen.
a little bit worried about Hillary Clinton. I mean, the point is they should be able to
I'm worried
use
about the
whatever
freedoms.
means
I'm worried about
are
our
lawful
constitutional
to be
freedoms
able to
that
protect us.
Americans have died for protecting for 237
I understand.
years.
I've got
That's what
news
I'm
for
worried
you
about.
because the Second Court of Appeals said, listen, some of these things are problematic with it, and it's already being addressed, and it's going to go back into place.
Some of them. Not necessarily the
what's
full
gonna
data
happen.
mining of every single American.
I
That is
understand
still
that, but I'm telling you,
very,
they've actually
very much
gone
on the
through
table.
with specificity, particularity, and said, this is what we're going to change. We're going to make sure that it abides by all the concerns that the court's going to have, and we're still going to be able to do our job to let people who are in this business that have the expertise, Eric, more so than any of us at this table, to say this
Can I
work.
just read this? I know we're going to get Julian here, but you have to just read how specific the Fourth Amendment is. This is very specific. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Right, but that's a little bit different than that. But I don't have time to take you through 3 years of law school and 15 years.
Please do, because tell me which part of that Constitution,
the bottom line
Fourth Amendment
is
that I read that's
this is going to be
inaccurate.
constitutional the way that it's going to be drafted. So you have an issue, and you agree with Senator Paul regarding the 3 specific areas that he feels is problematic and that he wanted this to lapse. My point is try and have a more global view about what's going on now with the war on terror and keeping Americans safe, and do not thwart the ability.
I'm on board with all of it.
Do not thwart
I'm
the
on board with
ability
fighting
of
terrorists,
the
bad guys
intelligence
everywhere.
officials to be able to collect information so that they then can go with specificity to go and knock on the door of somebody who's
do
going
that.
to
To Eric's, all right,
can
first
do
of all,
that.
they can do that right now. They could go to a FISA court retroactively. They can, if Eric Bolling, for some reason, is somebody they want to focus on, they can data mine you right now and
Just
then
name me.
retroactively go to a FISA court.
They absolutely
and
can.
get
But what
a
is?
warrant.
Well, how about the circumstances where time is of the essence and exigent
They can go right
circumstances?
to the,
That's what-
they
they
can
can
go
do it.
to
And
the
then
companies. They
they
can
can-
go.
I
know,
By the
they
way,
do it right away.
these documents aren't going away. These are still being held by the individual internet companies and phone companies. They're told to hold. They have to hold that
That's the
data.
thing. No, but
it's
these
just that the
companies-
government
Talking about
can't
timeliness.
go ahead and use it at their
But
will.
timeliness, they can do it in a timely manner, and then they can go back to the FISA court afterwards and get a warrant. That's how ridiculous this is. They don't even have to do it beforehand. They can do it retroactively.
But to Eric's point, I mean, we talk about the prospect for potential abuse, which we've already seen the IRS do. We know that if it's in the wrong hands, like, I don't know, a Sidney Blumenthal in the
Or
administration.
a Richard Nixon. It doesn't
But
have
listen,
to
it's
just be
already
Democrats.
happening. It's already happening. I pulled up an article from Reuters from last year. This was when the U.S., via the DEA, was directing its agents to cover up a program that it's using to investigate Americans. So what they're doing is they're using intercepts through the NSA to go after people they perceive are the bad guys. And then they don't have to tell the defense or the prosecution how they got that information. It's not the way that government's supposed to work.
I'll give you one more. And it's been about 2 years ago. They found there were certain agents. I believe they are NSA agents, operators, who were using the data that they mined to check up on their girlfriend's activities or their
All right,
wives'
well, this
activities.
is just, you're talking about one ridiculous
It's not that
example,
ridiculous,
or police
Kimberly. That's my whole
officers
But it's
looking
what
up
we know about.
girls, phone numbers by running their plates. Let's just get a little bit more serious about what's at hand here. Let's listen, take a look, because some of this is political, right? There's people making accusations, people are doing political grandstanding. Let's see what some of the 2016 GOP hopefuls have to say about this data collection.
The first duty of our national government is to protect the homeland, and this has been an effective tool, along with many others, and the Patriot Act ought to be reauthorized, as is.
You have people just making things up that the NSA is sitting and listening to people's conversations. They're not. And the fact is, we want them to be connecting those dots.
The next time that any politician, senator, congressman, talking head, whatever it may be, stands up and says that the U.S. government is listening to your phone calls or going through your phone records, they're lying.
All right, and let's pull this up, because the question is, someone who's running for the office, President of the United States, and trying to garner the GOP vote, full screen here, should renew the NSA data collection. 73% of Republicans that were polled in favor of it, should not renew 23%. So, Eric, I'll take it back to you. So Senator Rand Paul is really, this is something he believes, and he's been consistent about that.
No,
but I didn't finish the question.
Okay, go ahead.
He's been right out on front on this, but he's been consistent. This is something he's believed in and been very strong on for a long time. But this runs the risk of really perhaps compromising his chances.
There's another poll out, I believe it was either today or Friday, where it showed the breakdown of people who think that the country will be affected negatively by this expiration of this program. And it splits almost evenly, 52 to 48%. I think 52 said the same risks were going to be after we were going to experience the same type of risk. But when you break it down by age, clearly younger people under the age of, I believe, 35 years old, had a higher skew thinking that they want this program to expire. They didn't think the country was going to be any less safe with the program going away. Older people, in generally above 65, thought we were going to be substantially more at risk with the program going away. The point is, I think younger people are getting that we don't trust the government. We don't trust them. We don't know what they're going to do, and therefore, I don't want them to have stuff on me. I have no terror ties whatsoever. You shouldn't be anywhere near my stuff.
They're not going to look and listen to your stuff.
They did already, KG. They have the entirety of the American public.
But they're not listening. They have enough to do. They're not focusing in on Eric Bolling.
How do you know?
Or your Snapchat or whatever.
Well, the irony of those numbers is that young people are the ones who are giving away all their information. They're the ones who are on Snapchat. They're the ones who have, Google knows everything they're doing. I searched the other day. I was looking for breathable men's briefs, breathable underwear.
Or TMI.
Now there's underwear all over my screen.
Do you have a sweaty situation?
Look, I just thought, it's coming to summer. I want some nice breathable cotton. Anyway, there's underwear all over my computer.
Did you ever think of losing the sweater?
This is a whole new segment right here.
I was going to say, boy, are you comfortable giving out information to the American public?
I hear the point you're making. Everybody's giving it out.
Knows,
yeah.
Every time you click on something, they know. So I'm saying that America's companies know what we're doing. The idea that the government and that is personalized information. They do know I want the breathable cotton, but the government is just looking for patterns, is what I'm saying.
Let me just say this. We're talking about politics here. We're talking about the fact that, all these politicians came out and said this is atrocious, this is horrible. Mitch McConnell, who's been the biggest proponent of this program in the Senate, could have gotten this done a week ago, but instead he decided to give all those senators there, I'm talking to you, Rand Paul, and a bunch of other people, and actually Marco Rubio, who's so into this, the week off. So the reason this program expired is because the Senate decided to go into recess, and now they're panicking. If this was such a big deal, for Mitch McConnell, maybe he should have stayed at work and gotten this thing done.
Good point, There's
been some criticism.
We ran some sound bites of some people on the right, some people who want to run for president on the right. My hunch is they have to make that comment, and my hunch is they're going to let it go because this is not going to be politically expedient for them to take this fight to the people.
No, you're right. I agree, because it is so divided, and the fault lines are so interesting. I mean, Julie and Eric, you're both agreeing on this issue.
This could be the last.
I know, but you know what? Again, we got this poll. 73% say should renew. I don't think this is going to be like the be-all winning situation for a Democrat or for Rand Paul if you wanted to get the vote.
73% of Republicans, though, Kate.
But
this is what I'm talking about. He's running for the Republican nomination, not the Democratic.
I'm talking about the constitutionality.
I'm talking about the politics because we're right in the middle.
No, but I think largely the independents and the libertarians and those other voters that you have to win because that's how elections are won. They're won in the middle, not the left or the right. This issue is pretty important to them, and they tend to side on the privacy side, a lot of independents.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The other thing I'll say is, all of these people who are talking right now all want to be president. Of course they want these powers.
This is a big issue right now because they are running for president, and I'm going to tell you something. You're not going to get the Republican nomination with that particular viewpoint, so it won't matter. It won't matter because you won't get there to make it to the general election. And independents are in favor of it as well if you look at the polling. All right.